Good evening. Welcome back to blackdoctor.org. I am your host, Dr. Renee. Happy New Year. This is my first broadcast of 2021. First of all, I want to say that we here at blackdoctor.org are starting a new series, the blackdoctor.org Black Health Series. So today's topic, as you saw, is diabetes. And I just wanted to let you know that the magnificent Frederick Douglass, unfortunately, had diabetes. Who knew, right? So today we are talking about diabetes with our favorite diabetes doctor, Dr. Kelly. Hi, Dr. Kelly.
Hi, Dr. Renee. Thank you for having me. And I'm so excited that I'm the first guest.
Right.
The first guest for this year.
Yeah. So I'm so excited to have this discussion. So you guys know the rules. Let me remind you, please start a watch party, share, all that fun stuff. Let me find my little banner to remind you. There we go.
That's what I'm trying to do right now.
Okay, right. And I'm going to do the same. But everyone, we need you to share because I know that you know at least one person with diabetes, if not more. I know you do because unfortunately it is just way too rampant in our community. Right, Dr. Kelly?
Definitely.
So I know you know somebody. And if they don't have it, then they've been diagnosed pre-diabetic, but they didn't realize that meant that they could actually do something about it. We'll talk about that today too. Because pre-diabetes doesn't mean you have diabetes, but it means you have a chance. So we want to make sure you utilize that chance. Also, we're going to learn tonight, because some of you don't know, that you can actually put your diabetes in what they call remission, to the point that you may not have to take insulin. So we are definitely wanting to make sure we get that information to the people that you know that have diabetes. So please make sure you share this post, share watch parties and all that great stuff. As usual, please put your comments in. If you have questions, I will do my best to read them. I don't know what's wrong with my phone, but it is not working, and so I can't share. So yes, please do that, and away we will go. Somebody said they know 20 people. That's what I'm saying. Oh, wow. I know you know at least one. I figured you knew more than that. I was right. So Dr. Kelly, can you please explain exactly what is diabetes? Because, you know, you always hear people say, oh, I just have a touch of sugar. Oh, just a little sugar. That's about being a little pregnant. So please explain what diabetes is and why we need to take it as seriously as we do, because a lot of people don't understand the seriousness.
So diabetes basically means that there's too much sugar in your bloodstream. And to talk about diabetes, we have to talk about the hormone insulin. Glucose, which is sugar, basically. Glucose is the main energy source for our cells. And insulin is the hormone that takes glucose into the cells. In type 2 diabetes, the pancreas, which is the organ that makes insulin, is actually making a lot of insulin. However, the insulin doesn't work. You can think of it as the key doesn't fit the lock. So glucose can't enter the cells. So what happens is that you get a buildup of sugar or a buildup of glucose in your bloodstream.
So what we're talking about, the type 2 diabetes, as far as people that can actually perhaps not have to have insulin. And type 1 diabetes, there actually have been research and all sorts of new things to hopefully help them to be able to create, to actually make insulin, correct?
So there's, up to this day, there hasn't been a cure for type 1 diabetes. In type 1 diabetes, usually type 2 diabetes happens in adults. You have a really strong family history for diabetes. You might be overweight or obese, sedentary. Your diet might not be the best. But type 1 diabetes, however, typically happens in young adults, children, adolescents. And it's an autoimmune illness. We've heard a lot about antibodies when it comes to COVID. But in type 1 diabetes, our immune system makes antibodies that attack the pancreas and cause the pancreas not to make insulin. So as of now, there's no cure for type 1 diabetes, but fortunately, type 2 diabetes can go into remission.
Praise the Lord. So, and actually, now, do you have the numbers of how many people are affected with type 2 diabetes? Because it's actually probably, especially in our community, it's probably more type 2 than it is type 1, right?
Yes. So about 34 million people have diabetes. And get this, 88 million have prediabetes, and the majority of these people don't even know that they have a blood sugar problem. Yes. And in terms of the African American community, 18.7% of the African American community has diabetes. That's almost 1 in 5 people. If you had 20 people in a room, 4 of us would have diabetes. And African Americans are 77% more likely to develop diabetes than their white counterpart.
Wow, that's scary. But we'll say, and every Black person in the world, not even just America, in the world will say, oh, well, we came from slavery and this, and we didn't have. Okay, but you guys, we are actually quite a few years removed from that. So we need to quit using that as an excuse and learn how to eat healthy. And eating healthy does not mean eating terribly. It doesn't mean food without flavor.
Mm-mm.
It doesn't mean without, not having your favorites, but you have to do things in moderation. I mean, how much of this would you say is diet?
A lot of it is diet. A lot of the diseases, especially chronic illnesses, you have a genetic component and then you have a lifestyle component. So obviously when you have, I think if both of your parents have diabetes, you have a 50% chance. Have type 2 diabetes, you have a 50% chance of getting it. That means a 1 in 2 chance. If one parent has it, it's about a 1 in 4 chance. So obviously some of us start off at a disadvantage. But having a family history of type 2 diabetes doesn't mean that you will automatically go on to have diabetes yourself. You can implement some lifestyle changes even now, before you even have prediabetes, to prevent yourself from getting diabetes, like exercising, watching the amount of carbs you're eating, processed foods. I know we're going to go on to that, but a lot of the time it's diet. And I know it's diet because many times after I counsel someone who comes to see me, I've had patients be able to come off of medications and come off of insulin by making something as simple as cutting out soda. Some people drink bottles of Coca-Cola every single day. Just by cutting soda out, making that small change, drinking more water, less sugary drinks, people have gotten off of medication.
And people don't realize that, of course, I'm a Midwesterner, we call it pop. People don't realize how much sugar is in pop. They did, the American Heart Association actually did their campaign, and they showed you might as well go on and eat the Krispy Kreme.
Mm-hmm.
Because that little can of pop was far worse. And so I just encourage you to please pay attention, and you need to ask questions. If you don't know, you need to ask questions because your life literally does depend on it. And people, like I said, they like to say a little sugar. No, diabetes will cause you to lose toes, then feet, then limbs.
Mm-hmm.
Eyesight causes heart attacks. Men, you may not be able to get up anymore, if you know what I mean. Diabetes affects the vessels, and you guys, we are made of vessels.
Yes,
From the head to the toe, we're made of vessels.
I've literally seen every single complication of diabetes. I remember having a teacher who couldn't teach anymore because she had a stroke and couldn't remember where she lived the first time I saw her. I've seen people having heart attacks, and actually heart disease and heart attacks is the leading cause of death in patients who have diabetes. Kidney failure. So many of us are on dialysis. There's a dialysis unit on every single block.
No, in the Black community.
Yes. Because we ignore our high blood pressure. We ignore the diabetes until our kidneys stop working. I've seen people with lower limb amputations, as Dr. Renee said, loss of sensation and feeling, in their feet. So it can affect you from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet.
Yes. So it's really important, you guys, that you pay attention. If you are given a pre-diabetes diagnosis, Dr. Kelly, and I saw some of the questions I do see, we'll get to them. What is the first thing you should do? If you get a pre-diabetes diagnosis, what should we do?
Well, know that you can make some changes to prevent going on to full-blown diabetes. So what is prediabetes? Prediabetes means that your blood sugars aren't normal, but they're not high enough to be classified as you having diabetes. And there are a couple ways um, to confirm or to diagnose diabetes. There's a 3-month test called a hemoglobin A1C, for example, and a normal hemoglobin A1C is less than 5.7. So anything that's 5.6 or lower is normal. Diabetes is when your A1C is 6.5% or higher. So anything between 5.7 and 6.4 is not normal, but it doesn't meet the criteria for diabetes. So we call that pre-diabetes. And there's an old study that looked at metformin, which is one of the most prescribed drugs in America for diabetes and other things. This study compared patients who were on metformin versus patients who made lifestyle changes. They exercised, they lost about 7% of their body weight. And what they found was that the lifestyle arm did better than the people that were on metformin. So what do I mean by lifestyle arm? Exercising at least 150 minutes per week, going on a
And you guys, that's just 5 days a week, 30 minutes.
half an hour,
And
5
you
days a
don't
week.
have to do that half an hour straight. I tell everyone, break it up into 6 pieces if you need to, 5 pieces, whatever amount, 3 pieces, whatever you got to do. Break it up if you need to. If you take a dance break every hour you're at work, you've gotten in more than 30 minutes. You take a
Definitely.
5-minute dance break for your
Right.
8 hours of work. There's 40 minutes a day. So you really just have to do something. You don't have to have a gym. We're in a pandemic. Please don't go to the gym. I'm sorry, gym owners, but be very careful in the gym if you're going to go to the gym. But you don't have to spend money. Just walking around your neighborhood, around your house, your building, the parking lot at work. There's all these different ways that you can easily get in this exercise.
Yes. And in addition to exercising, also making some diet modifications, cutting out the processed foods, the high carb foods, the fatty foods. Those led to weight loss, and ultimately that group of patients prevented the progression to full blown diabetes. So if you look at any of the guidelines for treatment of diabetes, usually the first thing that we do is metformin plus lifestyle modification.
Okay. So I'm going to answer Martel's question. What do you think about water fasting to cure diabetes? I've not heard of this.
I mean, it probably would work if you're only ingesting water,
Okay.
but are you going to do that for the rest of your life? Because once you start putting food into your body, if you have diabetes, you're not going to be able to process the sugars. So that seems like a short-term fix, but it doesn't seem like something that can be sustained over a longer period of time.
Thank you. I that's what just blew me away. Davita, I see. She said ED always is a part of her diabetes mellitus education. That's what DM stands for. For those that are reading this, that will make them compliant. Oh, it usually does.
But the thing is,
right into
a lot of people, like a lot of men, don't want to bring that up to their physicians. So I would say if you are a man who has some kind of erectile dysfunction, please bring it up to your doctor, your primary care or your endocrinologist. Yeah.
Somebody said it's so hard to comply. Diabetes is a silent killer. I love soda.
Yes.
Dolores, I'm one of those people, just shoot me straight. So my family, we had a line of diabetes, grandma, aunts and uncles, and I have a lot of food allergies. So my whole thing was, you mean to tell me if I get diabetes, there'll be more things I can't eat? Because I'm not going to give you the list, but just know the top 8 allergens. Go Google that. I have them. So I was like, I can't add to the list or I won't be eating at all. That's all I needed to know. I was like, you mean I would have to give up this? So then I made sure that I figured out how to make sure I wasn't consuming too many carbs, make sure I got in this 30 minutes exercise a day, if not more. I drink lots of water. I do enjoy I haven't had pop in so long. I'm trying to remember what's the name of it. I'm not even being funny. I think it's Sierra Mist I like, but I do enjoy that. But if I have it, it's so rare that's why I don't even remember what it's called. I might order it at a restaurant, but even then it's rare. I loved McDonald's Orange Pop, but once again, that was a once in a while thing. It wasn't all the time. My new favorite thing to do is I buy the little flavored things you can put in your water. And that's what I drink with my water and put some apple cider vinegar that gives it a little zhuzh that makes me think like it's pop, and it tastes very good actually. So I use Tang.
Mm.
But yeah, you got to figure out something cuz honestly, I think that you don't love soda more than you love being able to see, being able to feel your feet, get your pedicures, have feet. There's all these things, and people say, "Oh my god, why are you being so, harsh?" These are this is the truth. Ruth, okay? I had a friend whose mother, she had diabetes, and it was actually type 1, so it wasn't type 2, but she never ever really kept it under control. Never. And she unfortunately left her 2 children. She actually stated, and I always say, be careful what you say, 2 words have power. She said, I will die first before I let you remove my foot. And it was coming to them needing to remove her foot, and she died in the hospital. So this is a serious business. The body can only do so much. So you guys can't, you can't keep, playing and hoping that it's going to just fix itself. So I'm Charlene Martin. I'm presuming that you are a diabetic. I have a procedure coming up. I can't eat or drink for 6 hours prior. What clear liquid would you suggest best to try and avoid hypoglycemia?
What did she say? I'm sorry. Let me read that again. She can't eat or drink for up to 6 hours
Because she's having a
prior.
procedure. So I'm assuming she's diabetic. That's why she's asking you.
So if you can't eat or drink, you probably shouldn't have anything besides water. So usually when someone comes in for a procedure, you should call your primary care doctor or whoever is prescribing your insulin or your tablets and ask them for instructions on what you need to hold. So the tablets that, for example, you might be on a type of medicine called sulfonylurea. Common name is like glipizide or glimepiride. We normally hold those. We hold metformin. We hold most of the oral medicines at least the morning of and the night before your procedure. If you take insulin with your meals, we would hold that as well. And we might give you a lower dose of longer acting insulin.
This is a long one. I was diagnosed with prediabetes. I dropped my A1C from 6.7 to 6.1. I changed my diet and exercise. Bravo to UD. I also had diabetes with the pregnancy of my first son. I'm 125 pounds. My high blood pressure meds were dropped to 2.5 milligrams from 30. Yes, my grandmother, and father have diabetes. Help. What else can I do?
I would say you're doing a really good job already. You were able to get your A1C. Well, 6.7 is actually in the diabetes range. So you do have diabetes. It's no longer pre-diabetes. But you've got it under control with diet and exercise. So that's wonderful. Obviously, having gestational diabetes is a risk factor for having type 2 diabetes. I'm not sure how tall you are, but 125 pounds is not a lot. So I would, if you were coming to see me and you weren't the typical overweight or obese patient that I see, I'd probably make sure that you don't have type 1 diabetes.
I've recently heard that the long-term use of metformin is ineffective.
Not as far as I know. So what happens is diabetes is a progressive illness. So many people start off with just diet and metformin. Like I said, any of the algorithms that you see for type 2 diabetes, unless your numbers coming out of the gate are extremely high, we normally start off with lifestyle modification and metformin. But over time, the pancreas starts to fail. It starts to make less and less insulin. So it's not uncommon, especially if you don't make those lifestyle changes and take care of your diabetes. What you find is someone ends up on, metformin and lifestyle changes, and they add a second medicine and a third medicine and a fourth medicine, and then they eventually end up on insulin. So I wouldn't say that that's the metformin being ineffective. I would just say that that's your diabetes progressing. Even patients who I have on insulin, I still continue metformin because metformin reduces insulin resistance. Remember at the beginning of this talk, I said insulin is that hormone that takes glucose from the bloodstream into the cells. And when you have insulin resistance, there's a lot of insulin around, but it's not working. So the glucose can't get into the cells. Metformin makes your muscles and fat cells more responsive to insulin, so you burn more sugar. So I usually continue metformin in addition to insulin.
So what do you think of this statement here?
Not a good thing. Definitely not. Even by itself, smoking is horrible.
Horrible.
So Dr. Renee said earlier that diabetes affects all of the vessels in your body. Like there's substances that are deposited in the tissues in the small vessels in the vessels of your body that make them really sticky for like cholesterol. So what does that lead to? It leads to plaque buildup in your arteries, and that's the cause of heart attacks. And smoking increases that stickiness as well too. So adding smoking to someone who has diabetes is a heart attack waiting to happen. I don't tell my patients to completely cut out alcohol. I think you can have alcohol in moderation. Just be careful with it. Um, Alcohol, so your liver makes glucose. Even when you're sleeping, your liver is still churning out glucose. And alcohol can sometimes affect your liver in that way. And sometimes people have hypoglycemia or low blood sugars when they drink too much alcohol. Obviously, if you're mixing your liquor with the sugary drinks, that might lead to spikes in alcohol, spike in blood sugars as well.
And
So
there's
I would
also
say
there's alcohol. There's certain, especially when you're talking about hard liquors, some of them are pure sugar. That's where they started from. So you need to be careful. Like, certain things, there are certain drinks that people who are on diets usually drink because they know that
like
these other
vodka,
drinks have more
right?
calories. What do you say?
Like vodka has less calories.
Exactly. So
Mhm.
people, they know this. And so that's what they drink. And maybe you should talk to them because I can tell you your Bacardis and stuff like that, they have a lot of sugar, especially when you go get, the flavored ones, then, the lemon and the peach and all these other, flavored ones. It just makes it worse. So be careful. If you're going to drink alcohol, try to make sure you get one that is not, straight sugar.
Okay.
Now this we know to be true. Dr. Kelly actually works with lots of people on reversing their, well, we call it putting diabetes in remission, not reversing it, putting it in remission. So can you talk more about that? And then we can also talk about how people could work with you if that's what they're trying to do.
Sure. So yes, diabetes can go into remission, and it's more likely to go into remission if you make changes within the first 5 years of diagnosis. If you wait till after that, it's going to be much more difficult. And there is a shorter term remission where you have, so basically your blood sugars are back to normal without medication. We don't say diabetes is cured because you still always have that risk of having high blood sugars again. If you've been able to have normal blood sugars without medication for a year, we would call that like a shorter term remission. But a longer remission is if you've had it for at least 5 years.
Wonderful. So we'll have her information at the end, and you can see if you'd like to see work with her. Have you any advice on plant based in fighting diabetes?
Yes, I think the cardiologists love plant-based diets as well. Um, it has been shown to help with the remission of diabetes and lowering blood sugars as well. So that's one thing that I also recommend to my patients.
Oh, here.
Right. So an A1, so once your hemoglobin A1C is 6.5% or higher, you are classified as having diabetes.
My primary physician gave me a test for type 1 diabetes. I did not have it. Oh, this was the 125 pounds. I was given a, what is
So,
it?
so glycated hemoglobin test is the same thing as hemoglobin A1C. So I'm not sure what test you were given for type 1 diabetes, but the test I was referring to was not the A1C. I was referring to antibody testing. Like I said earlier, type 1 is autoimmune, where your immune system makes antibodies that attack the pancreas. We can actually um, check your blood for those antibodies to the pancreas.
Is tingling in the fingertips a sign of diabetes?
Yes. So tingling in your feet and your hands, we when it was in medical school, we used to call it glove and stocking disease.
Yes.
It's a sign or could be a symptom of neuropathy. A lot of different things can lead to neuropathy. Vitamin deficiencies can do it. I've seen patients have neuropathy as a side effect of chemotherapy, so drugs can do it too. But commonly you can see it in patients who have uncontrolled diabetes, and sometimes I actually see it as one of the presenting symptoms. And it can get better when the blood sugars come down. Patients say all the time, when I don't eat what I'm supposed to eat, if my blood sugars get really high, my fingers tingle, like my feet tingle or my fingers tingle.
This is the person that is going to have a procedure. She will skip metformin in the morning of the procedure, just debating apple juice, broth, or something else that doesn't cause a fast increase, then quick drop in glucose.
Well, first thing I want to say that nothing that we say here you should take as medical advice.
Right.
Please always consult your physician for any medical advice.
They said don't eat or drink for 6 hours. They probably mean that.
Yes. So like I said earlier, if you're not supposed to eat or drink, then you shouldn't be eating or drinking apple juice or broth. So please contact your doctor to get them to adjust your medication.
And let us tell you why. What happens is when people go under, they have no control. And if you are to basically vomit, you could choke and die. So this is why they say you need to have an empty stomach. And that's why it's 6 hours to make sure that what you had, is already digested and gone, because you would hate to get on the table and something horrible happen and you're laying flat too. So, just a bad situation. So in order not to go in and end up with 10 other problems, I would probably listen to your doctor that said don't eat or drink. And
not only that, they're probably going to cancel your case if you come in and you've already eaten. So
right. Yeah, that too. Oh, she's 5'1", 125 pounds. Oh, she's little. She's like, I'm 4'11". She's my height. Monk fruit. I did see that earlier. Now I lost that other question. So does Splenda and or monk fruit sweetener elevate A1C?
So no, Splenda and monk fruit sweeteners are artificial sweeteners. So technically, they don't have any calories. They have minuscule amounts of glucose. So no, they don't raise your blood sugars. However, have you ever tasted artificial sweetener? It's actually
my quick question. Monk fruit isn't artificial though, is it?
No, but the sweetener that comes for it, yes, is a fruit. But the sweetener that comes for it is a sugar substitute.
Got you.
The artificial, sugar substitute, I should say. But if you ever had like Splenda or whatever, it's a lot sweeter than even like normal sugar. So what these artificial sweeteners do is that they actually alter our taste buds. So they make us crave sugar more. So what they found is that people who have a lot of these artificial stuff, like even Diet Coke or, they have a higher risk of being overweight and even having diabetes. So if you can avoid artificial sweeteners, then you should. Obviously, if someone has diabetes, I'd rather them use stuff like this, like stevia, than to have real sugar. And I had a patient today who was telling me that he's going to cut sugar out, but use honey. Honey and agave actually have more glucose than sugar. So you're not doing anything great by substituting honey or agave.
But I thought because of the low glycemic index or something.
They're not low glycemic index foods. They're sugary.
I tried to help y'all. I tried. Okay. I take Trulicity, but now I experience mild stomach pain. Should I stop?
Please consult your physician about that. But yes, so I can't tell you to stop or not, but nausea, vomiting, and abdominal pains are side effects of Trulicity. And I do tell my patients to call me if they're having those side effects.
So what happens if you stop taking statins and just change your food intake?
So a lot of people think that statins cause diabetes, and that has not been proven. So I don't think stopping your statin will do much to your blood sugars. Obviously, changing your food intake, making those lifestyle changes, being mindful of the amount of carbs that you have. A lot of us don't take the time to read labels. That's one thing that if you have diabetes, you should learn how to look at the back of the label and see the amount of carbs per serving of whatever you're putting into your body.
And then you need to pay attention to how much are you having per serving.
Right. How
Because
many servings you're having. Yeah.
right, because if you're having a whole lot, then you need to multiply that by that many as well. So be
Yep.
very careful. Those things can be very tricky, but you need to read them. What do you recommend for breakfast for a diabetic?
So I would recommend whatever you. So for a meal, I would say try to keep your carbs under 30 to 45 grams of of carbs for your meals. So whatever you eat, make sure you have some protein and a good healthy fat with it, something that's high in fiber. So for example, I believe a slice of bread is like whole wheat bread is maybe 15 grams of carbs. So two slices of bread is okay. But make sure you have it with a lot of protein and some fat. So maybe, I don't know, turkey, some avocado, and two slices of bread. You can have oatmeal as well. Oatmeal has a lot of fiber in it. Fiber causes, well, first thing, fiber is more slowly digested than say like, something that's a processed carb. And because it's slowly digested, it doesn't spike your blood sugar as fast, as high
And
as
you feel
fast.
full longer.
You feel full longer as well too. But be careful with your serving size. Look at the back of the label and see how many grams of carbs is in the serving of the oatmeal. But try to keep it under 45 grams of carbs. What people do is that they have the oatmeal, then they have a glass of orange juice, then they put the raisins and sugar in the oatmeal as well, and then it ends up just being too many carbs. A lot of people think that when you have diabetes, you can't have carbs at all. That's not true. Glucose is the main energy source in your body. It's the source that your brain needs. So you still need to have glucose even if you have diabetes, but it's about how much you have and what type of carbohydrates that you have. So on processed foods, whole grains, trying to eat as natural as you possibly can. Lots of foods that are high in fiber will be a good place for you to start.
She said, I'm not asking correctly. I mean, 6 hours before my procedure, which liquid might hold my numbers best above hypoglycemia?
So I guess she has to have a liquid diet before she fasts as well. Okay. So yeah, like you are correct. Like chicken broth is a good thing to keep you full. You can also have even soda or orange juice if your numbers start to go down as well.
It was, this one. Doc told me I am type 1.5 and I don't understand it.
So what they mean by type 1.5 is called LADA, LADA. It's called as latent autoimmune diabetes in adults. Remember earlier I talked about type 2 and I talked about type 1. Type 2 being sedentary, overweight, family history, type 1 being autoimmune. So what we found is that there's some patients who have the same antibodies that like a type 1 child would have, but they don't have them as high titers or not as many. So they develop the type 1 or autoimmune diabetes usually later in life. So a lot of those patients I treat as type 1 patients because eventually they're going to be insulin dependent.
Is stevia truly natural and good for you?
Like I said earlier, I would try, if possible, to avoid all types of artificial sweetener. But I believe stevia is not as processed as the other things like Splenda and Sweet and Low. Is that Sweet and Low? Sweet and
Yeah.
Low, those kind of
Splenda,
things.
Sweet and Low, and Equal are all chemicals.
Yes.
Stevia
So,
comes from an actual plant.
yes. So it's better than those other options.
Yeah. So that's the difference. Can long-term use steroidal medicine cause diabetes?
Yes, most definitely. We call that steroid-induced diabetes. A lot of patients who might have that family history might be teetering on the edge. They definitely get pushed over when they get started on steroids. It causes an insulin defect, meaning that the pancreas doesn't make insulin as well as it should. You see it showing up a lot after meals. A lot of we call postprandial hyperglycemia happens with steroids as well. And it's one of the side effects. Because I mean, steroids get prescribed for everything for
I mean,
what?
I lived on steroids because of my asthma. That's the only thing that would allow me to breathe.
Exactly. You have asthma, you have a rash, you have pain. Like everything gets steroids these days. But your doctors should really be monitoring you for that.
And I was always on it was always, it wasn't straight, you
Taper.
always had a taper, tapered on, tapered off of steroids. But yeah. Um, what is a number after testing? What's too high and what's too low?
You mean after
I guess for
eating?
blood sugar after eating, maybe, yeah.
Oh, after eating. So depends on if you if you have diabetes, we want your blood sugar to be less than 180 milligrams per deciliter. Um, a low blood sugar is when you're under like 70 milligrams per deciliter, 70 to 80 milligrams per deciliter.
Is green smoothie okay? So you guys, the thing with the green smoothie is everyone puts something else in their smoothies. So the green could be kale and the green could be apple. The green could be so so that's where things get tricky.
It's all about looking at the number at the amount of carbohydrates that you're having. I
Right.
believe
So when you make a smoothie, you need to have more vegetables than you
than
have
fruit.
fruit.
Yes, yes, because fruit is ultimately still broken down into glucose, so they will still raise your blood sugars. And a lot of us love bananas, but
I
you
was
should
about to
really
say it.
because they taste so good, right? But bananas, I believe, have about 25 grams of carbs in it. So we usually recommend having half a banana if you want to have a piece of banana. Because if you're trying to have 35 to 45, 30 to 45 grams of carbs for each meal, right? A banana has 27 grams of carbs in it.
Yeah.
If you're trying to have 30 to 45 grams of carbs for an entire meal, and you
Then
have one
banana won't
banana,
fill
you
it.
can't have any, you could have like a little bit of something else, but besides that, no other carbs.
Do you recommend using diet pills?
So there is a role for medicines. I mean, obesity is a medical illness, it's a
Specialty even.
medical
Yeah.
disease. Yeah, there is a specialty that deals specifically with obesity medicine. So there is a role in medications as well as even bariatric surgery for the remission of diabetes. However, do it under supervision of your physician. A lot of these diet pills that we get, like in the
There's a
pharmacy or
lot of side
whatever,
effects.
a lot of stimulants, so they can affect your heart, they can affect your blood pressure. So you don't want to cause another problem by doing something that your doctor doesn't, is not monitoring.
Um, can diabetes cause your hair to fall out?
Hmm. Not that I know
I was gonna say,
of.
not that I know of. I'm trying to think of the chemistry and the biology behind, and I'm like, I don't think so. So basically, Michelle, what she is saying is that yes, there are natural ways you can reverse diabetes. It's a diet and exercise.
I guess what she's saying, there's no like fruit or no supplement
There's no
or
superfood.
right. People talk about cinnamon, chromium, and I actually looked it up once, and there were a couple of studies, but they weren't really conclusive. If my patient wants to sprinkle some cinnamon on top of their food, like go for it. If they want to take a cinnamon pill, go for it. But that's not going to, substitute for if you're on medications. Don't start your medicines to take cinnamon.
Can loss of estrogen induce diabetic symptoms?
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
I guess loss of estrogen meaning menopause.
So usually, I mean, the symptoms aren't quite. I mean, there could be some overlap, like the lack of. Some people complain of the night sweats, but usually the sweating happens if your blood sugars are low, not really high. So usually, going through menopausal symptoms don't really affect your blood sugars per se.
Yolanda said, diet is easy, but it's the exercise I'm unable to get motivated for. All the
It's
motivation I need is my life. That's all the motivation I need. But honestly, if you just park your car a little further away from the door, when you go places, you'd be amazed. Get one of those step trackers. I think that the best thing I ever got was my Fitbit because it causes me to compete with others, and I don't like to lose. So I'm going to be competitive, and I'm going to take the extra step. I'm going to walk that extra mile. I'm going to do it because I want to make sure I get my steps in. So if that's what you need to do, I go get you a little step counter and look at all the steps that you can get in and just keep walking. And I mean, 30 minutes is not much. I hate exercise with a capital E. I did 2 workouts today. Hate exercise. But when I tell you I love music and dancing, telling you, turn on the radio and make it happen, Captain. 30 minutes a day. Have a
I mean
dance party.
I mean, to be honest with you, like a lot of my patients are struggling right now because one, it's getting colder. So like I used to walk outdoors. Now it's a little harder for me to do that as well too.
She's in Georgia, you guys. She don't know cold. It's snow on the ground here in Michigan, but okay.
But also with the pandemic, like we're just not as active as before. Yolanda, just keep going with your diet and get as much movement as you possibly can. If you're someone who, if you work from at home, don't be sitting around all day. Get up and just walk
If you
around.
have to set
Even
a timer on your phone or something to remind you to just get up every hour, they said that's the new cancer is sitting and not just being sedentary.
and we've been doing so many Zoom meetings and Zoom this that we're just sitting all day. So I acknowledge that it's hard. It's even harder now with a pandemic, but just get some more movement in.
Do you recommend herbs into the diet? I
Not
think
sure.
that the best thing you can do is to season your food. We don't have to use salt. You should use all of the different spices and herbs that are in the kitchen to season your food because they will do nothing but make it taste great. And if it's healthy, then it still can taste really good because you've used all these lovely things to enhance the flavor. So I highly suggest that.
Yes, and like it doesn't have you don't have to eat boringly. You just be
No.
more mindful of what you're eating and make some simple substitutions. Like have sweet potato instead of the white potatoes.
Yep.
Um,
Use it.
having
Look, if you can, go get you an air fryer. And you want to have French fries, put the sweet potatoes in the air fryer, put the chicken in the air fryer. Don't bread your chicken with flour, bread it with chickpea flour or almond flour or some alternative that is not going to be a carb that is going to go counting against you, but it'll be delicious and healthy. It'll be crispy. Mashed cauliflower is my absolute favorite thing ever. You season it properly, nobody will know that it's not mashed potatoes if you got to feed children because kids are always picky. But if you don't tell them, they won't know. So there's all sorts of amazing things that you can do. I know Dr. Kelly has lots of resources. I know I do. My sister's a chef, so I have lots of resources. And so if you need help, please let us know. But there is no reason that food should be bland and tasteless. Even if, because I don't know, this house, we really don't use salt. So I don't know the last time that I used salt. Maybe it was when I was in a restaurant, which has obviously been a very long time now. But we don't use salt. We flavor our food with all sorts of great things. It's just not salt because we have people with hypertension. So somebody asked what you already had said. If one of the parents has diabetes, type 2 diabetes, does mean one of their children will be a carrier later. So she said you have a 1 in 2 chance when you have parents.
if
So
both parents one and
both
two,
parents. So
yeah. So there's no type 2 gene. When we talk about carrier, like someone who has
right.
sickle cell trait,
Yeah.
there's a carrier. And there's no like one type 2 gene. But certainly having that family history increases your risk.
Do you recommend any meal prep resources? I don't. No, you know what? I'll tell you. My sister did she did Green Chef. She did their vegan and said it was very delicious. Um, Seems like she did another one. Her website is foodieengineer.com. And I believe she did do a blog post about her experience with them? She did. I know she did. So you could go and check that out. So that was
I mean,
Green Chef. Green
I
Chef.
mean, I guess does she mean she's going to prep the food herself? So, I mean,
No,
just
she said
Google,
she's
just
struggling to prep healthy food. So
yeah, I would say just just Google, like you can, if you want to do a Whole 30 diet or keto diet, you can go online and find so many recipes. So I'm sure you can go online and search for low carb recipes or diabetes or recipes for diabetics, and a lot of resources would pop up. So maybe you can just start there.
does diabetes cause pigmentation problems? My mom and I are diabetics and have skin discoloration, which is causing our skin to lighten. Now that's a new one on me.
So there is something that's called acanthosis
But
nigricans,
that's
which
darker.
right, which
And
is
it's right
when your
here.
skin it's back of the neck, front of
Yeah.
the neck too, under the armpits, under the breast, um, where you have like a dark leathery skin that can happen with type 2 diabetes, and it's a clinical sign of insulin resistance. But I've never seen type
Lightning.
2 diabetes happening with lightening of the skin. Um, in patients who have type 1 diabetes, because it's an autoimmune illness, you can also have vitiligo, which might look like lightening. But type 2 diabetes, I've never really seen that.
So you guys, we've learned today diet and exercise is huge, especially with type 2 diabetes. So what are the other two major things that they should take home, Dr. Kelly?
One thing, if you have diabetes, is to know your numbers. Know what your numbers are. First thing, it will tell you and your physician if whatever medicine you're taking is actually working. A lot of people come to see me without their blood sugars. If you go to your doctor and you don't have your blood sugars, they're not going to know what to adjust. So you need to be checking your numbers. Check your numbers if you're not feeling well. Check your numbers if you've started a new regimen. Also, if you started a new exercise routine, blood sugars tend to go down the more active you are. So you might be able to come off of some of your medication eventually, but you need to check your numbers. You need to know what you're dealing with. And patients who test more tend to do better. You guys have seen commercials on television for continuous glucose monitors. Technology is advanced now where you don't have to be sticking yourself every time you eat. There are two available ones right now, a Freestyle Libre or a Dexcom. There are some really cool devices, and I have patients in their 70s and 80s who are on these devices and loving them. So you can check your blood sugar whenever you want to check it. And even when you're sleeping, like your physician can see what's happening to your blood sugar. So, ask your physician if you qualify, if your insurance company covers you having a continuous glucose monitor, but you need to know your numbers. So that's one thing, know your numbers, diet and exercise, as well as just knowing that diabetes can go into remission, that it's not a death sentence, and you still have control over your health. And your physician, I can throw all the medicines that I have at you, but you can still eat through that and drink through that. So you are still in charge of your health. And sport is important, at least within those first 5 years of your diagnosis, to really take it seriously, because after that, remission is less likely. And also, um, if you really make the effort to get your blood sugars under control, your risk of having complications later down, in your life are lower if you make those changes within the first 1 to 5 years.
So here's her website, you guys, drkellydiabetes.com. She will work with you to help you to get your diabetes under control and hopefully off of insulin, but at least under control so that you don't have these horrible risk factors. Because as we know, especially in COVID, we know that these underlying conditions make things very difficult for you down the line with other illnesses. So what you want to do is try to be the healthiest you can possibly be, control what you can control. And type 2 diabetes is something we can control for the most part. There's a whole lot of things we can't control, types of cancer and stuff, but we can control this. And because it has so many things that come after it, kidney and heart and eyesight, and if we can get this under control, look at how many different systems of the body we can make much better. So please, if you need help, please make sure you visit her website. Um, Dr. Kelly hopefully will go through these comments and she can gives you some answers and some direction. And thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Oh, thank you for having
Oh, wait,
me.
maybe she
I
didn't
thought
hear
you
me
were
because my
talking
mic
to the
is
chat.
dying.
Thank you
Okay.
for having me. For those, like Dr. Renee said, I do help people who want to get their blood sugars under control and as well as get their diabetes into remission. Go to the website, drkellydiabetes.com. You can also follow me on social media at Dr. Kelly Wood, MD. I'll spell that for you, DrKellywOodMD. This month is Thyroid Awareness Month, so I've been talking and posting about the thyroid, and each month I do different health topics. So that would be great if you guys can stay in touch with me.
Yes, and I will make certain that her Facebook page is tagged in the post. Our friends on YouTube, in the comment section, we'll make sure that we have her website listed, her Facebook page, all of her social media. Okay? Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in this evening. Once again, Happy New Year. Let's make 2021 the best year ever. Let's just call it a do-over from last year. Some of us had a rough year last year. Let's make this one a great one. And, this is still January. It's only the third week. So
Jeez.
if you set a resolution, intention, goal, or whatever to do better with your health, let tonight's discussion be that stimulus to help you to kick in gear and realize that you can do this. For those that say they have trouble being motivated, there are so many online communities to help you with these things. Please, please, please find your people and get your tribe together so that you all can be healthy and live long and prosper. Okay. So my hashtag is live life you deserve. I think we all deserve to live an abundant life. And if you are sickly and do you guys know how much insulin costs? Oh my God. If you are sickly and having to pay for all these medications, it's hard to be prosperous. So let's do what we have to do so that we can save our money and live lovely. Okay. And don't have to worry about every little thing we put into our bodies. And, because you want to live a little at some point, right? So thank you, everyone. Have a good night, and we'll see you next time. Bye.